Hi, I'm Greg Medore with the Oily Crafter, and my wife Judy is running the camera today. So our project for today is we are going to build a portable repeater, ham radio repeater, using some Baofeng handhelds. So I'll put a equipment list down in the bottom to let you know. But what I did was I bought a kit of a couple of Baofeng UV5Rs. These are the 8-watt versions. I got a couple of antenna connectors here that I'm going to use. I'm going to put them inside of this Apache case. This is a completely waterproof case. We'll mount the antennas, the transmit and receive antennas on that. And then because this pack of radios that I got, they actually use an extended battery, and that extended battery has the ability to use this USB charger here to plug into the battery and then keep the battery charged. Now these are going to be plugged into this is a battery bank here, and this happens to be from Stealth Angel. It has a solar panel on it to keep the battery bank charged, and the two USB plugs will actually plug into the two USB-A outlets here on the bottom. I've also, what I'll need is a cable. This is a cable. This is a custom cable that I built. I happened to find some cables on Amazon. It's 2.5 millimeter on one end. It's a monaural cable, so it's not tip ring sleeve, it's just tip and sleeve. And then this is a 3.5 millimeter plug on the other end. And I'll need that to plug into the speaker and the mic ports on the radio, one on the receive and then one on the transmit, just using the standard connectors there. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to remove these regular antennas, and we will use these cables to connect into the antenna port on top of the radio. And then we'll use some grommets here. We're going to drill holes and use a grommet to run the wire through there. Here's the grommet here. Hopefully we're going to try the smaller size first. Hopefully that works out. And we'll need to have one of those on the top and bottom for these antenna cables. We will seal those up with silicone to make sure that we maintain a watertight seal. And then the cables that are going to provide power and connect to our solar battery bank that's going to hang on the outside of this case, those we'll have to drill a bigger hole and probably use a bigger grommet on there to be able to run those two cables through that. And again, those will be we'll make those watertight with a silicone seal. So next step is what we've done is we've removed the antenna here from the radio, and I bought a set of cables again and bought them from Amazon. That was pretty much one of the few places that I could find the part that I needed. The SMA connector screws into the radio here in place of the antenna, and then this part here we will actually drill a hole in the top of the case here. What I've done is, once we drill the hole, we'll put this grommet in its place. So what I've done is that grommet is going to sit around the wire right here. So I measured the diameter of that wire, and it's 5/32, I believe it was. And so I just used that to poke a hole in the grommet here. So what will happen is that grommet's going to fit flush right up here against that. And then we'll use some silicone seal to seal it. We're going to make a cut halfway through this grommet to be able to slip this on over this, and we will also drill a hole in the case here to run that antenna wire, through that hole, and then put the grommet around the wire, and then put that in place. Well, okay, so I determined that the diameter of the grommet needs to be, it's about 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to drill a 3/8 inch hole in this. And you're probably wondering, well, why don't I want both antennas on the top of the box? Well, I don't want them both on top of the box because the antenna for transmit and for receive are going to be on the same frequency, and they will potentially interfere with one another as far as receiving transmit a signal. So that's why I'm going to put one antenna on the top, one antenna on the bottom. I was thinking about doing it right in the middle, but I've also got to do power here as well. And so I'm probably going to, that's why I'm going to offset it just a little bit here. So I'll get back to you after I drill a hole. All right, so we ended up, we had to go to a little bit larger bit, to a 7/16 bit for that size grommet. So now I'm ready to screw the hole in for the second grommet there. All right, so we've got the hole drilled for the other antenna. We're using this is about a 9.5 millimeter grommet here, and this is I believe this is a 5/32 bit that we're using, and this one here, I just need to poke a hole in the center of it for the size for this to actually fit. It'll go right down through the center of that grommet, and it'll be the perfect size hole to fit that collar that's on that connector right there. So this one I literally don't need the drill. I just need to center it in the middle of that, and then I just kind of twist it a little bit as I poke it through there. I'm going to pull that thing back out, and then what we're going to do is we're actually going to cut in halfway through this in order to be able to put that wire inside of that grommet there. Okay, so what we've done is we've drilled a hole now for the grommet for the power wires to come through the side of the case. This is about a 16 millimeter grommet. We measured the diameter of these are the power cables that are going to plug into the extra capacity battery pack, come out, and they have USB plugs here. Those are going to plug into our solar powered battery bank. So by measuring the diameter of these two wires, it turns out I need about a 1/4 inch hole right here in the middle of this grommet. So I just found me a 1/4 inch bit, and again I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the other two grommets here, if it'll cooperate with me. Punch a 1/4 inch hole through the center of that, and then we're going to use the scissors. We're going to cut halfway through that grommet to that hole, and then we'll be able to put those two wires through that grommet, through the hole, and then put the grommet in there, and then we'll be able to seal that up. And again, this case will continue to be watertight. All right, so now we are ready to, we're going to be connecting up the radios, but first I want to talk a little bit about this crossover cable here. And this crossover cable is going to go from the speaker port here on the speaker port on the receive antenna, on the receive radio, and that's the 2.5 millimeter jack. That's the one here on top. We're going to plug that in, and it goes to the 3.5 millimeter or the mic port on the transmit radio. Now, this cable I bought from Amazon and bought a packet of 2 of them. And what I had to do was I had to come in and I had to splice, I had to cut that antenna or that wire because it has red to red and white to white. I cut it and then I reversed red to white and white to red, because it has to be a crossover cable to go from the speaker port on the receive radio to the microphone port on the transmit radio. So what we'll be hooking these up now, and the receive antenna, I decided that I'm going to have to disconnect these for just a second. The receive antenna, basically, and we use these pigtails just because we're going to have some longer antennas that we're going to connect on the outside of this case to give us a little bit more gain on our signal. So that's connected there. And then the next thing that we're going to need is we need to find the power connector here, and we're just going to find that power connector, and that power connector goes right in there on that battery. And again, the reason why we use the extended battery is because it has that extra connector there that has a USB charger that we can plug into our external battery. So that cable, that radio there, it's good to go. This radio here, we're going to, I'm going to disconnect that wire for just a second. We're going to connect the transmit radio up. And again, the transmit antenna is going to be on the top. Here's our transmit radio. And again, we're going to take the power connector, the other power connector that we have, and that's going to plug into the radio here. Right? Last thing that we're going to do, again, 3.5 millimeter goes into the transmit radio. And you can see this is transmit radio right there. And we'll do a little bit of cable management here in just a minute, but and the 2.5 millimeter port right there, male plug there, is going to go into the speaker out jack on the receive radio, right? So we'll get all these wires all prettied up here in a minute, but then our external battery comes out here, and then these two USB-A connectors, they're going to plug into the ports here on the bottom of the radio, or on the bottom of the battery, sorry, not radio. We've already plugged it in the radio. We're going to plug that in there, and we're going to plug that in there. And notice that, okay, one of my radios needs a little bit of a charge on it, hence the red light. The other one has a green light. So we'll get all these cables all nice and prettied up, and once we determine we validate the length here, we'll be sure and seal these grommets here, and then we'll be able to hook up those other antennas, the longer antennas, and be able to do some tests there. So I was working on, continuing on this project, and as I showed yesterday, I drilled some holes in the case to be able to pass the antenna lead through there. And what I found out is the antenna, what I had originally planned, it wasn't stable enough to hold that 28-inch long antenna stable on the top or the bottom of the case. So I decided to go a different route, and I bought these adapters. And this is a basically a chassis mount adapter, and it converts from SMA female to SO239. And so how this is going to work is I'm going to mount this. I'm going to have to make this hole a little bit bigger. It'll be a 9/16, but it's based on the diameter here of this right here, which I use the calipers to measure. So I'm going to have to drill this hole out a little bit, and I'll mount this in place. Then the antenna lead coming off the radio will connect into here. This will, of course, be screwed down to the case, giving it a lot of stability on the antenna, and it will also let me be able to change out the antenna. So should I want to hook this up to antenna that's already in place, for example, like a more permanent mount antenna, I could be able to do that, or I could basically put the cable on there to hoist it up in the tree, and then be able to have it be much more mobile. So that's the plan, and I will drill a little bit bigger hole and work on getting these mounted. Okay, so I've got my hole drilled out. Again, I used a 9/16 to drill that out. You can see that fits in there rather nicely. I will put some silicone sealant around this to help seal, make it more watertight. So now I'm ready to put that on there. I'm going to mark the 4 holes here, and I'll drill small holes for the screws to go through. And then I've got some. I'm going to try the number 6 screws. A lot of times these will only accept number 4s, but I've got some of both, and we'll try those and to mount that to the case. And we'll do that on this end and also the bottom end of the case as well. Okay, so I finished drilling the holes here on these SO239 to SMA connectors here. I drilled 1/8-inch pilot holes, and I'm using number 4 40 threads per inch 3/8 long screws. They're machine screws, and then it's got a nut on the back side of the connector here. So I'm just tightening those up here for the antenna connections. Okay, so I've got my SMA connectors to SO239. I've got those put in place and mounted to the case now. One additional thing that I did was I went to a shorter SMA female to SMA male connector that will actually connect into the antenna. Previously I had a 12-inch, I found these 6-inch ones, and I thought, well, that'd be a lot better because the other cable I had looped inside of the case underneath the radio. So decided to go to a shorter one to just basically get rid of the extra wire. Okay, so we've got our surface mount antenna connectors, the SMA to SO239. So the antenna that I'm using is a ABRI, and it's a 28.3 inch antenna. Now they do say that if you're going to buy these off of Amazon, there are a lot of knockoffs out there, so you need to make sure that you got the one that's in the green case, because that's an official ABRI antenna. So the connector I'm going to use to connect this up now is I'm going to use this is an SO239, or sorry, a PL-259 to an SMA male connector, and then the antenna itself, that is going to connect into here. This is the base for the antenna, and then as you fold this antenna out, you see, and these antennas, by the way, they are made to be folded up like that. So this antenna, it just screws together like this. And the nice thing about these antennas is these antennas give you, I think it's somewhere around 6 dB gain. I'm not 100% sure on the number on gain, but it's somewhere around there depending on what frequency you're using, whether you're using VHF or UHF. So the last thing to do here is to just screw that antenna onto this connector here. And I know a lot of people are probably wondering, I'm going to stand up here. So a lot of people are probably wondering, so why the heck did you do that? Well, the reason I did it this way was because the problem is these antennas, if they're right next to each other here on the top, you're going to get interference between these two antennas because they're both resonant at the exact same frequency. So I'm hoping that by separating the antennas, one for receive, the bottom one, and one for transmit on the top, that I provided enough separation so that I don't have as much interference signal degradation coming in. Okay, next step, now that we've got this completely assembled and everything is watertight, it's completely watertight. We are going to seal off these where we've done the antenna mounts through there, and other than that, the thing will be watertight. So we've got all of our radios in there, we've got the antennas hooked up, we've got the crossover cable between the receive and the transmit on the antennas, we've got the batteries plugged in. So now we're ready to do some work here on the outside of this Apache 1800 case that we got at Harbor Freight. All right, so we've got this Stealth Angel is where we got this battery from. This is a lithium polymer battery, 10,000 milliamp hour. It's very unique. It has a solar panel charger on there. And the reason why we want this is because, okay, so you go out on a camping trip, you've got a bunch of people that are with you and you want to be able to stay in contact with them. That's kind of the purpose of this whole repeater and a case here. And the nice thing about how we've done this is we can take these antennas off, we can fold the antennas up, very nice, very compact. And when you put this thing up in a tree, it's got a solar panel on this battery besides the extended batteries in the radios that are going to help keep this thing running for quite some time. So haven't measured how long, but okay. So our thing we need to do next is we need to figure out how we're going to attach this. So what we've done is we've grabbed some Velcro, that's 15-pound Velcro. We got this off on Amazon. And by the way, we will put some Amazon affiliate links in the description down below. We will receive a small benefit from you purchasing from those links, but just want to let you know that we are going to put the entire equipment list, etc., down there in the comments. So that this battery description. What did I say in the comments? Okay, sorry. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to mount this literally right here on top of this case. Okay, so in order to do that, we figured, okay, well, we've got a good surface here on both of these that we can attach the Velcro to. So I said, okay, well, we need to put the Velcro, and it needs to have a good solid backing here. So we're going to place that right in there. Then we cut off a length of that Velcro there. So I'm going to cut this in half lengthways as well. I'll fix one part to the back of the radio, the other part to the top of the case. And then once we get that on there, we'll take these two antenna leads and these two battery leads running to the radios, and we'll be able to plug those in. And then when it's outside in the sun, this will help to keep the battery charged internal to this, which will in turn help keep the battery charged on the radios. All right, so we've got our box put together. The solar power battery bank is Velcroed to here. I'm not going to pull it off because we're letting the Velcro set still, but as you can see, we've got the battery leads that are going to through the case inside to the radios to charge them up. And you can see we've got our antennas connected, our external antennas connected. So let me open up this box. I do want to say that this is watertight. I'll put some silicone over where the wires go in, where the antenna mounts are in place, but we'll pull this case off. There is an O-ring seal on the underneath side of the lid here. So let me I'll kind of tilt this up here so you can see it better. This is our crossover cable that goes from the speaker port on the receive radio to the mic port on the transmit radio. We've got our wire that here goes from the antenna here to the antenna, the bulkhead connector, and then of course our battery leads connect in here to the radios themselves. So in the next step, what we're going to do is I'll go over the programming for these radios. And again, I want to emphasize that in order to use VHF or UHF frequencies, you do need to have your ham radio license, your technician license, in order to be able to use this in this manner. So I would like to say thank you for your interest in our channel. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe the video, and please feel free to leave us some comments and feedback.